Hey everyone, welcome to another installment of Harry Potter Theory. They're finally here, leaked pictures from the set of the Harry Potter TV show. Now, before we get started, I just wanted to be transparent and say that I know I'm a little late on this one, particularly for a Harry Potter specific channel. But with so many updates rolling out lately, I figured I'd wait just a little longer and cover everything at once. Except, well, the extra updates never came. But honestly, these photos alone are worth talking about, as they give us the very first glimpse into what the Harry Potter show will look like. And even though there's just a handful of shots, there's already a lot to dig into. We've got our first proper look at Dominic McLaughlin as Harry Potter, Daniel Rigby as Uncle Vernon, Belle Powley as Aunt Petunia, and Amos Kitson as Dudley Dursley. And it looks as though the leaks capture their iconic trip to the zoo. Anyway, before I get ahead of myself, let's break it all down. Starting with our new Harry Potter. Here he is, the new boy who lives. Before we get too much into the nitty-gritty here, I'll say this. Dominic's depiction of Harry is pretty damn good. He's got the glasses, he's got the messy black hair, and of course he's got the iconic lightning bolt scar. Honestly, he looks the part. But while this may be one singular image of the new Harry, there's still a lot to unpack here. But before we dive in further, a quick word from today's sponsor, Scentbird. Just like the world of Harry Potter, the right fragrance can transport you to an entirely new realm, which is where a service like Scentbird comes in handy. Scentbird offers a monthly subscription that lets you explore over 900 authentic designer and niche fragrances. Each month you receive an 8ml vial, providing about 120 sprays. Plenty to test how a scent works for you in various situations. This month I've been trying Genetic Bliss by 2787, a molecular perfume infused with woody notes like creamy sandalwood that's designed to adapt to your body's unique natural scent. I've also been trying Matchbox Romance by Binaural, a scent that strikes with a fiery spark like the snap of a match, before unfolding into a rich blend of dark florals like rose and carnation. Fragrances have an amazing way of connecting us to different moments in our lives, just like the Harry Potter series brings back those nostalgic feelings of adventure and friendship. And let me tell you, trying new scents can be an adventure in itself. So for just $8 your first month and $16.95 after that, you can find your signature scent. Just scan the QR code on screen or use my promo code HarryPotter2 to get 55% off your first month at Scentbird. Grab that discount, explore new scents, and let the magic unfold. Again, that's code HarryPotter2. Don't miss out. One of the first things that I noticed was the placement of Harry's iconic scar. If you look closely, you'll notice that the scar has been placed noticeably further to the side of his head, more toward the temple, which differs from both the book description, where it's just above his right eye, and the existing film version, where it's closer to the center, but still a fair bit offset. That said, the scar itself actually looks pretty good, less like a red scratch and more like a genuine old wound, which is a nice touch. It has texture, depth, and a slightly faded, healed-over appearance that gives it the weight of a real, magical wound, which, let's be honest, it should have. And overall, makes it feel less like a costume detail and more like a permanent part of Harry's identity. The next thing I noticed was his extremely 90s Ace Sports sweatshirt, a grey pullover with bold red block lettering. To the casual observer, this may not seem significant, but it's actually a pretty big deal, because it signals that the series is taking the book-accurate approach seriously, grounding the story firmly in its original 1991 setting, just as J.K. Rowling intended. This differs from the original films, which opted for a more timeless, slightly modernized aesthetic. If the show stays on course with this and leans heavily into the 90s realism, I think that will benefit the show greatly. But while we're on the 90s note, I think it's important that we next take a look at our new Dudley Dursley, played by Amos Kitson. If the 90s was a person, this would be it. Sporting a shiny, crinkly, multicolored windbreaker, digital watch, and chunky pair of trainers, they threw the entire 90s at Dudley's character. And if you weren't convinced from the new Harry's appearance that they're taking this 90s thing seriously, then this should dispel any doubts. The other thing I noticed about Kitson is that he is noticeably thinner than the Dudley from the original films, more closely resembling the physique of Dudley in Order of the Phoenix rather than Dudley in Philosopher's Stone. He's also certainly thinner than Dudley from the books, who is described as follows. Dudley Dursley had a large pink face, not much neck, small watery blue eyes, and thick blonde hair that lay smoothly on his thick, fat head. But even though Kitson lacks the extra bulk I was expecting, he appears to more than make up for it in expression and attitude. The facial expression captured in leaked image, where he pulls off a perfectly smug, piggish sneer, looks like it was pulled straight from the page. And whether it was a candid moment or a scene in progress, it's a pitch-perfect embodiment of the entitled, unpleasant Dudley fans love to hate. The next image of the new Dudley appears to show him sitting next to another boy dressed exactly the same way. And who's this? Well, I'd be willing to bet that it's almost certainly Piers Polkiss, Dudley's best friend, or more accurately, his partner in crime. In the books, Piers is described as a scrawny boy with a face like a rat, and he's one of the few kids mean enough to match Dudley's energy. He famously tags along on Dudley's birthday trip to the zoo in Philosopher's Stone, and based on the matching outfits and the setting, it looks like that zoo scene may be exactly what's being filmed here. And what's particularly exciting about this is that Piers never appeared in the original films. Seeing hints of things that never made it into the films this early on is a very encouraging sign that the HBO producers are taking things seriously. Finally, I want to take a look at images of the Dursley parents, Harry's horrible aunt and uncle. Starting with Vernon Dursley, played by Daniel Rigby. Before we unpack this one, I do want to say that the casting of Rigby as Vernon Dursley does feel right somehow, at least from what I've seen of Rigby in other films and shows. I've certainly got high hopes for him, and I think he'll portray Vernon's arrogance well. Anyway, on to the leaked photo. There's quite a bit to break down here. In the books, Vernon is described as big and beefy, with hardly any neck, a large moustache, and dark hair. And similar to the portrayal of Dudley, it appears Rigby isn't quite as bulky as we might have expected. This is a little bit disappointing, if I'm honest, as Vernon has had a lifetime to accumulate the bulk we come to expect from him. But I wouldn't say the character is a lost cause. The costume team appears to have leaned into the no-neck description by giving him a tightly buttoned collar that visually compresses his neck. And while he might not be as overweight as we'd like, I think I speak for everyone, this is a subtle but clever move. He's also rocking both the moustache and the dark hair, two of Vernon's most recognizable features. And honestly, that alone goes a long way in making him instantly feel familiar. The moustache in particular really sells it. It's thick, old-fashioned, and it brings a lot of that classic Vernon energy to the screen, even if the overall build isn't quite as beefy as described in the books. Visually, it just works. It's enough to immediately tell us, yep, that's Uncle Vernon. One thing they've added though is the glasses, which Vernon never wore in the books. I'm guessing they threw them in to really lean into that 90s vibe. Next up, Petunia. Now, the first thing you'll probably notice is that Petunia's appearance is completely different from the original films, and that's for one simple reason. The original films didn't physically portray her character well at all. The following book passage explains what she was meant to look like. Mrs. Dursley was thin and blonde, and had nearly twice the usual amount of neck, which came in very useful as she spent so much of her time craning over garden fences, spying on the neighbours. In this regard, the new Petunia does seem more fitting, particularly the blonde hair, which is a small but important detail that was completely overlooked in the original films. Not much else to report on the Petunia front, but I'm eager to see how Belle Powley does. Anyway, from just these few images, it's becoming abundantly clear that HBO is taking this project seriously. Not just in a broad sense, but in these small, meaningful ways that matter to long-time fans. From the inclusion of secondary book characters like Piers Polkiss, who never made it into the films, to more faithful visual choices like Petunia's blonde hair, and even the deep commitment to the early 90s aesthetic, everything seems to point to a production that's genuinely trying to honour the original source material. And if the rumours are true, it sounds like seasons 1 and 2 are being filmed back to back, with characters from later books like Lucius Malfoy and Cornelius Fudge already cast. Each of the first 2 seasons is expected to be 6 episodes, with later seasons potentially expanding to 8, though honestly, they may need even more to properly cover the larger books. All in all, these early glimpses are promising. It's still early days, but the level of detail and long-term commitment we're seeing gives me real hope that this show might finally be the faithful adaptation fans have been waiting for. Also, just a quick reminder to give Scentbird a try. Just click the QR code on screen and use code HarryPotter2, or click the link in the description to get 55% off your first month. What do you all think? Let me know down in the comment section below. Until next time, remember, It does not do to dwell on dreams and to forget to live.